examples in nature, which probably inspired some of these shapes and some of the meditations. So can you think of any mandalas that might occur in nature?
A flower, chrysanthemums.
Yes, all daisies, chrysanthemums, all of those flower shapes. Good example.
Spider web.
Nice. Yes, spider web's a great example, and not one that I had, so I'm adding it.
Citrus. You open up like a slice an orange in half.
Yes, yes. Another example that I read was ripples in water, a water drop and how it echoes out.
Right.
And another example is planetary orbits, making that sort of circular shape. So I want you to consider, maybe you want to make an intention for this particular mandala, and that could help you choose colors that you want to use. So for example, we know that this is going to, well, the activity is to make this calendar page for next June. So next June, projecting forward, what do you think you might like? What would be good for you? Would it be calmness, happiness, release, contentment? And maybe just jotting down a couple of colors that might help evoke that feeling for you. Because what's going to happen, I'm going to do a little slideshow and show you some different examples. And one of the things is sometimes when I look at examples, then I get carried away with the examples. And while they might be lovely, they might not be exactly right for me. So I want you to be thinking about what's right for you. And then we'll look at some examples to see how they might be able to work. Only the host can share this meeting. Can you let me share the screen? Or I can show my iPhone up to the camera. Okay, awesome. So
just choose two colors?
Just a couple of colors. What colors make you think about this particular feeling? So mandalas have become really popular with the coloring book trend that we've seen. Probably, has that been around now for like 5 years, I think?
Seems like
it.
But
yeah, so one of the things about this type of mandala that's on the screen here is that coloring them is kind of meditative. It gives you a feeling of calm and can be super absorbing. So that's.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we can't see your screen.
What? Okay.
Screen share. Sorry. What?
Thank you. So let me try. Oh, I'm new. I'm a newbie. Okay, let me try that way. How about that? Can you see that?
I can. Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the coloring book that I was talking about, and this type of repetitiveness can bring a lot of calm and peacefulness and focus. And here's another one. Again, this one is just a couple of colors, and that might work for you, or maybe you're somebody who wants more colors. So again, as you're looking at these examples, think about what's going to work for you and what you might like to look at next June. I don't know, I used to teach, and certainly I went to school for a lot of years, and June has a certain feeling for me, which is a lot about freedom and a lot about the the bookend of a school year. So I might choose certain colors that evoke that feeling for me. Here's another example, and this one is different in terms of the shapes, Like these ones are all sort of focused toward the inward. And I feel like this one is focusing more outward. Do you see that too?
I can see it, yeah.
So, you know, not, they don't have to follow a certain, you don't have to all look the same. Here's another very complicated one. I feel like this one was drawn on the computer and then, you know, made into a snowflake type of design. But I like the heart shapes in there. And do you see any shapes that you like in there that you might like to use? I also like the open circles. So, you know, take a look. Maybe there are some designs in here that could be inspiring for you. Maybe these like trapezoid, like weird triangle shapes are interesting for you. This one to me was worthy of inclusion because of the animals. So your shapes don't have to all be flowery or petals, or, you know, and then also you could see around the edges there are elephants. You can include all kinds of different shapes. This one is an old, I'm pretty sure it's a Tibetan one. And I just want to show in this one, the center is a circle, but you see that there are other shapes included here. The squares, and then kind of in the north, south, east, west area, it's not all completely symmetrical. Then, do you also notice anything about the colors here?
Well, there are 4 different colors in the large circle.
Right, and so it's not quite as symmetrical, and it's I don't know, I feel like this one's a little more interesting because of that color variation.
I agree, that one's cool.
Yeah, and this is a Buddhist monk, and again, if you look at the center motif, there's a circle, but it's got a grid imposed on it. So it's not even concentric circles there. And then, of course, there are super bright colors that you can see. Do you know about these sand mandalas?
I don't know about mandalas, period.
Okay. Well, they're sort of a tool for meditation for the Buddhists. And as the Buddhist monks are making them, they're saying their mantras and praying. And then after the mandala is finished, it's sand. They just blow it away. Start another one. I don't know if any of you saw the crazy show House of Cards before it was pulled, but there was a time when they made one of these on the show, and the president's like, well, I want to see it tomorrow, and the Secret Service like, it's going to be gone tomorrow. This is what they do. They just blow them away. Okay. So here's another variation. I'm just trying to show you that there are lots of ways to do this. And you notice in the center of this one, it's not a symmetrical concentric. The heart in the center is unique to as a design element. Okay, I happen to like this one. Does anybody else like this one?
Yes, that's awesome.
What do you like about it?
I like that it's not symmetrical. I like the tree and the like fluidness of it, the wavy, the wind is what I'm seeing with leaves.
Right, and the mountains behind the tree. I mean, it's very whimsical from my point of view. Yep. And also, it's got an element of that dark and light business, which we're going to play around with tonight. Now, some of you might be familiar with the psychologist Carl Jung. And he had a book that he didn't publish until he didn't allow his family, he didn't publish it, and he told his family to wait for, I think, a year after he died before they could publish it. And he drew mandalas on a daily basis, or at least really regularly. And he found them to help him have clues as to what was going on in his unconscious. And this is an example of his work from the book that was published called The Red Book. So again, one of the things I like about this is the four kind of corners have different elements in them. They don't all have to be, you know, symmetrical. So what we're going to do is lay down color, and we're going to lay down a field of color on the large square piece of paper. You might want to practice first on the small piece. So can you see my face and paper there? This is what I'm calling the small piece. And you may just want to do a little, some of us like to experiment first. What I'm suggesting is that you make a patchwork of the colors that you want to feel like looking at, and that evoke the feeling that we were talking about. But this was one of my first examples because I take pictures of lots of things as I'm making them. And I'm going to suggest that you not make the patches that big, because then when I made the mandala, do you see how, you know, there's a ton of pink in here, which was from the magenta and the pink that you could see. And I would have preferred to have more different colors throughout. So my suggestion is, on your piece of paper, you might want to do lots of smaller squares. And my other suggestion is that you use brighter colors. The purple will show up some, but these brighter colors are going to have a better contrast with the black. So you could just do a little tiny sketch, an example on your piece of paper if you wanted, just to see how this process works before you do a whole thing. And I just wanted to show you one more example for me. I was inspired by those pieces that had different different shapes on in each corner. So for me, this was my house, which, as I said, I've lived in for a year. I just love it here. And when I just had one dog, and Oregon weather is full of clouds and rainbows at this time of year, and like a lot of love in my life. So I'm just encouraging you to make whatever mandala and include whatever designs you want. Okay. So the next thing that I wanted to, oops, I'm missing a couple of slides. Let me see if they show up. Okay, here's one of the things I want to show you. As you're putting your color down, do you see those flecks of darker color in there? Yeah. Those are pills. They're called pills. And that's when the oil pastel rolls up on itself. And so you want to dust those away. That's why I suggested maybe baby wipes or paper towels, so that you can move those aside. And then after we put down here's how much color. You want it to be more than a stain, but you don't want it to be super slick, because we're going to put black down on top of it. And when you're finished putting down all of your color, then use the bigger black one to go ahead and cover that up. And I used the side of one of my black crayons. All right, overlapping color.
I'm sorry. So we used the black pastel to color on top of the other colors.
Yes, so don't use black pastel on the first layer. You won't be able to see it when you scrape it away.
Yeah.
And then overlapping colors is fine. So if, you know, like right here, like this green and this yellow, and I overlap them, and that works. And the smudging is fine too, if you want two colors smudged together. And just please try to remember that oil pastels are not very precise. So, you know, don't expect that you're going to make tiny little things that are exact squares. Just work on it. So what I want to remind you of is, because of that imprecise nature of oil pastels, to if you have any inner critical voices, oh, that's not turning out. Oh, why did you put that there? Some of us have those voices that show up. And I want you to just notice, hey, there's that voice that I don't like very well, and just move along. and say, Brenda said it's not going to be perfect and it's going to work out anyway.
So then we're gonna cover this whole space with those colored pastels.
Well, yes, that is, that is one suggestion. You don't have to color the whole space. For example, in this one, you know, I didn't need to color the edges because I went, you know, within a half an inch or so of the edge.
Gotcha,
An
gotcha.
inch and a half, sorry, is what I meant. And the less, if you have texture underneath your paper, it's going to show up. So I had this, for example, right under my paper, and it would have shown those bumps if I had colored over it. So you just want what's under your paper to be fairly smooth. Has anybody done this before?
No, I haven't.
As a kid, anybody?
Nope, never had heard of it.
Oh, well, that's fun.
So if we're practicing on the little paper, can I take the black and go over the colored blocks that I made?
Absolutely. And so the test might tell you, is there enough color? Is there too much? Is it too slick?
Okay.
And of course, I'm doing random colors here, but if you wanted a more symmetrical design, you would want to do symmetrical colors. So orange, green, 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 you know, you would just make your first layer more symmetrical. And in case you love this, you're going to have plenty to make another one, or with a partner, a child, or somebody else. How did it go, Pat?
Well, you know, covering it with the black and then trying to write through with the little wooden implement makes me realize that I need to use more color on the bottom layer. So
Yes. So you need more than a glaze. And also there's some techniques for the scraping away. So I just did, here's an example. This is definitely a scrape.
okay.
It's not, well, just mess around with it a little bit because it depends upon what you have underneath and how much give is underneath. Do you know what I mean? So if you're on a squishy surface, it's going to be different than if you're on a hard surface.
Okay.
So it's definitely scraping away, not pushing it. So
Right.
pushing it like that doesn't always work. It happened to work that one time, but a lot of the pushing that I did. So in this one, I was pushing with this utensil like that, the manicure stick, and you could maybe see a lot of these lines are more smudged than they are clean.
Right. Right.
So that's more like pushing, and I
Pushing.
got a lot of black in there, and this is much more scraping.
Because I was afraid I was going through the color as well. So that's why I was thinking I needed to put more color. Now I've got cardboard here. Do you think cardboard would not be as
Well, you could try scraping on top of cardboard and see how that technique is
Okay.
my suggestion. I'm scraping on top of my table, which is a wood hard table, and I kind of like how that's working in terms of the scraping away business.
Oh, yeah, I see now. I'm doing it.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scraping as opposed to just trying to scratch.
Yeah.
Then I get the colors. Okay, cool.
Not there. It's an odd, there's not a lot of language for how to describe how to scrape versus push on this paper.
But that makes difference though. Pushing is much, I think, a better sense of leaving the color intact than scraping.
Yeah,
At least for me anyways.
there you go.
I'm sorry that I had to step out. I wonder if you could do we use the circle thing at the beginning or is that later on? And I just need to take my paper and just start putting blocks of the pastels on it.
So circle is for later.
Okay.
If you want a circular motif, I wanted you to have some templates to be able to do the scraping.
Oh, okay.
But how did it go? Did you rescue everybody?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They were both really kind of hot and tired. So
Yeah.
it was funny because they both looked at me with the same expression like, oh, good, she's here. She's finally, she can stop this endless somebody keeps telling me to go and
Yeah.
and the other one's like, he's not stopping. I'm like, well, you're telling him to go.
So we're
All right.
laying down blocks of color, and my suggestion, do you see it, like on these blocks, I made fairly large squares of color.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't particularly like that. So I'm suggesting just monitor. I'm making far smaller blocks of color for this example. So also, if you want it to be symmetrical, then you're going to want to start with one color here and, maybe alternate the grid pattern for what blocks you want.
All right. And just start in the center of the page and just.
That's what I did, but this is one of those.
Whatever we want to do.
No, there are lots of ways to skin this cat. That's a bad expression.
Yeah, well,
there are many ways to get this done.
And the large black one, we're going to save that because that's what we put that over the top at the end? Okay.
Yeah. So as a corollary to that, I would not use the darker colors.
Okay.
I wouldn't use the brown, the dark brown. If you want a brown, I would use the lighter one.
Okay.
And this navy blue is probably not going to be a great contrast. So I'll be sure to put something bright next to it.
Gotcha. Okay.
I wouldn't put a whole bunch of dark things next to dark colors next to each other. And my other little suggestion was, if you want to think about what colors evoke what feelings for you. So next June, what makes you feel June-ish, whatever June feeling is for you. Which makes sense to some people and other people. I did a workshop about colors and emotions, and I was trying it out with one of my friends first, and he said, I don't think that way. Like, okay. I mean, if you say to me, what color is happy? I could give you a list of colors that are happy. But he couldn't. Okay, you see the pills that I'm getting? Maybe you're getting pills too. You can mush some of those in, but I would also just make sure that you're doing something with them, because they'll get caught up in the black and just smear around. I'm assuming that if you have a question, you're going to be asking it.
Yeah,
And that
we're coloring.
quiet means happy.
And are we supposed to fill the whole page then? Or just
Well, you
the center?
can, but the thing is, like with this one, for example, you know, I came in 1.5 inches from the edge. So you might want to think this this size is, I'm pretty sure, 9 by 9. And the page in the calendar is 10 by 10, pretty sure. So this will not, and I made it a little bit smaller so that the hole wouldn't be covered up. So, you know, you might want to go to the edge, but you don't need to go to the edge, whatever floats your boat. And of course you don't have to do black on this part. You could do another color down here and not cover it up with the black later. You know, you could have a border of red or something and leave it uncovered. So many good ways. Oil pastels do get into things, so just be really careful with all those little pills and stuff. Be aware of where they're going and not into your white carpet. But I think a gal who just adopted a Mustang probably doesn't have white carpet. I'm not sure.
You got that right. I washed my hands before I came back. I'm like, oh boy, I should scrub my fingernails. I'm glad you can't see. Like I'm probably walking in a layer of dirt right now.
I dated a horse guy for a while and I was amazed at how filthy a barn can be.
Yeah. And now when you clean it every day, I tell you, the broom's not your friend, seems like sometimes.
Yeah. One day I decided to take down all of the spider webs.
Oh yeah, I hate that job. Ugh.
And I was like, hey, I took down the spider webs. And he's like, yeah, they'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing. And then did it get in your eyes? Like if it's on the ceiling and you use a broom or something, it all just falls down on you. And
yeah, I gotta make sure your mouth is closed.
yeah. Well, my husband, so this is the barn life too. I don't know. I think it was for my birthday last year, the year before. He got me one of a leaf blower.
Oh yeah.
Really nice high-powered one. So now I can just go and I can blow the aisleway out the front of the barn and all the hay and everything. But it also makes a huge dust cloud if I don't do it every day, you know, or if I try to use it to get rid of cobwebs that have formed in the ceiling. Then it's just like this dust bomb in the barn. But I do like I was excited about it. And I guess that means I'm old too, right? Because now you start getting vacuums and you're happy, and leaf blowers and you're happy, and a blender or new dishwasher.
Yeah.
Now, you said you got the horse from Nevada?
Yeah, he came from just north of Reno in the Shawave Mountains.
Okay, because my sister lives in Sparks, Nevada, which is just to the east of Reno, and we drove by a wild Mustang. What do you call it? A reserve? It's where they round them up and take them there, and then
so it was a holding facility after they got rounded up.
Yes, and they were beautiful. We drove by, and there were foals, and oh my gosh.
Yeah. You know, that's probably where my Mustang went right after they
started with a P. I can't remember the name of it. I'm sure if I called her, she would tell me what the name of it was. I started with the P.
Pretty cool. I mean, the roundups themselves are kind of, it's just horrendous.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that I have a picture of him in his roundup? Like there's a picture of him being rounded up. He's like in the very back and the helicopter's looming right behind him.
Can you imagine how it scares them?
Oh, I know. Yeah. It's just, they're very resilient horses. Like this guy is so smart.
When you drive on the back roads around Sparks, we were counting, you can see the wild Mustangs just on the hillside. It's really awesome to watch.
Yeah.
So just I'm thinking of a multitude of things, but one of them is I just was with some family who I haven't spent a lot of time with, and they told me about the horse counting game, which, does anybody know about the horse counting game? Because
No.
my uncle says he made it up, and then other people said, oh, no, you couldn't have made it up. I learned it from somebody else. But you count in the car, if you're on the left side, you count all the horses on the left side of the road. And if you're on the right side of the car, you count all the horses on the right side of the road, and whoever has more horses wins. But if you drive past the cemetery, everybody's score goes down to 0.
Oh, man.
And there are just all of these, I mean, I'm sure you can make up a million caveats, but it was really funny because you know, we'd get it really ahead on our side, and my uncle would say, oh, I know where the cemetery is, don't worry.
That reminds me of this game that we used to play on road trips when I was a kid. It was just an alphabet game from the billboards, but you had to do it in order. Like A, B, C. So
Yeah,
it was
we played
kinda
something
hard
like
when
that.
you were trying to get an X or a Z.
Yeah, you want to go by a radio station then.
We used to do that looking at car license plates.
Yep. And then I wanted to tell you, the guy that I dated had a chicken that was one that flew up into the rafters. And did I mention we used to date? And he was an interesting guy. But anyway, he used to call his chicken his wife. And she once pooped on me. And I was like,
Jeez.
wow.
From the
Your wife-
rafters? She was up in the
Yes,
rafters?
from the rafters. Your wife pooped on me. He said, well, I
Jeez.
guess that's what she thinks of you.
Jeez.
I'm like, wow, I'm not feeding her again, I'll tell you that much. Because I know what makes poop.
Yep. Yeah, we have 13 chickens right now.
Oh,
We get like a dozen eggs a day.
what do you do with them?
We try to give away as many as we can to all of our
Yeah.
neighbors. We call them up. We're like, yeah, do you want a couple dozen eggs? I mean, like 4, because we have like 10 in our refrigerator. So we don't
Yeah.
sell them or anything like that. And then my husband is getting good at making custard.
Yeah.
And I've looked up recipes for like 12 yolk pound cake.
Yes.
And then I would make an angel food cake because you
Yeah.
know, then you have all the egg whites. But I can't do that too often because then it's just cake all over the house. So, you know, that's not good for me.
Yes, I have friends who have chickens, and they all last summer. But what was happening was neighbors across the street were giving me zucchini, and then he was giving me eggs. So I kept making zucchini bread and then handing that out to all my friends. And eventually they're like, enough. Okay. Well, if we were all sitting around the same table, this is a time when I would get up and say, how are you doing? Let me see. What's going on? Oh, look it.
Oh, wow. You got the
Wow.
whole page covered already.
I know, she's fat.
Wow.
Nice. Good stuff.
Color's done.
Nice. Okay. So if your colors are finished, it's really, just make sure all the pills are off. So if you have little spots like that, brush them off or use a baby wipe.
Yeah, I did that
Okay, so
with my
when your
baby wipe.
colors are finished, you're gonna take the paper off of the black color. I have, just by the way, tried this with other of the dark colors. Like I've tried this with the navy and it just didn't work. So you might be able to get it to work for you, but didn't work for me. So I'm just gonna color over it. And you can use the side, but that leaves a lot of open spots when I do it. So I use the end, color with the end. And you want a fairly thick layer of black. It doesn't have to be perfect. And some smudging is okay, but don't grind it in, because what you're doing, we're wanting a layer on top. And if you do too much smudging, you're mixing the two colors, and then when you try to scrape, you're not going to have a color underneath to scrape into. These are my handy tips. And if you decide that this is really your jam, this scratch thing, you can actually get papers called scratch art papers. So you don't have to do the oil pastel thing all the time to make your base. Oh, let me see, Tamara. Yeah,
Wow.
that is a good coverage. Okay, I'm gonna just give another minute and then I'll talk about planning the design again a little bit more. So remembering that this is going to go on your calendar page, and also it might be cool to do this on the diagonal, for example, but if you did something on the diagonal, it's not going to fit on the calendar page. So you probably want to be planning your design so that there's a north-south orientation. And Tamara, did you make a little sample? Oh, she's doing something else. This might be a time, if you didn't make a sample, you might want to make a little sample. And even if it's just a couple of colors.
Okay, I didn't do the sample, just to do the scratching.
Yeah, just for a little
Okay.
practice. So you might just want to put down even just one color and put black on top of it. Just for, you know, just for a little practice. I don't know, I'm a practicing kind of person, but some people just go with it, which is cool too. Whoa. Mary, how's it going at your house?
Okay, I'm almost done with this.
All right, there you go. Jenny, happy? Oh, look at you. Nice.
Oh, wow.
Did you use the circle template? Nice. Yep. Ladies at Image Reborn, how are you all doing? All right.
Wow.
Nice. There you go. Okay, so let's, I just want to show you a couple of things. And the reason that you want to make a little demo is just to practice the different line textures and stuff that you can get. Because one of the things you might want to do is break your toothpick, which will give you other textures to play with and potentially a sideline. But what I see when I do that line, it's more smearing. Can you see that? Not really. It's more smearing than it is a line. So you want to do a little practice to see what kind of line texture you can get. And then the manicure sticks also give you a couple of different options. I'm just going to see if I can get better light here. So the manicure tip, of course, is going to be one type of line. And then this is what I tried doing this, and it just gave me a lot of smudging when I pushed, like with the cuticle side. But when I did the cuticle tip so that it was down and kind of like the sharp part and went down like this, then I got some nicer lines. So again, I think I would try this on a little padding because I'm not getting as nice of lines as I was getting earlier. And then of course, there's just the Q-tip tip or the toothpick tip. So practice some lines before maybe you get started. And then the circle templates are just to help in case you want to do a circle mandala shape. I find doing freehand circles to be really crazy hard. So that's why I sent along some circle templates. So the idea is that you might figure out the dot of the center and have a spot to put this dot. And then you could just go ahead and trace around the circle, which would give you a guide. And maybe you don't want to do the next, maybe this circle is too small for you. So maybe you just want to do a bigger one. So it just depends upon, you know, what's going to work for you in your design. And one of the things that I find to be helpful is to take after I've made it, scrape the line, to take off the excess black on a scrap piece of paper, scrap area, so that I'm not smearing that black into my next scrape.
Oh.
Hey, I made Mickey Mouse.
Yay, MIC. Leslie, is this making sense? You feeling
Yes.
like, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, are you finding the process to be meditative or engaging, or are you more focused on
I find that super relaxing. Like it
Cool.
clears the mind.
excellent? Glad to hear that. A lot of artists who use oil pastels layer them like we're doing, and some of them scrape away. It's one of the ways that you can get a more precise line with oil pastels. And there are entire books about oil pastel processes that are really cool, explaining how to get different techniques and effects with them. And each oil pastel brand has a different texture and kind of way that they get applied. So if you ever are interested in doing more with oil pastels, you'll probably end up buying different kinds. And even what I noticed, I used a different brand for our sample ones, and then I couldn't find it again. So that's why we switched brands. But even different colors applied differently as I was doing the samples. Are you finding any color combinations that you really like or that are surprising to you as you lay down your color? Like right here, I'm seeing purple and green that I didn't really plan together, but wow, I like that combination.